So that's my take on like the process, right? And then once you really get here, this is, like I said, where it gets interesting and fun, because then you have a sense of real identity. Your history just doesn't go back 400 years now. You know, it goes back centuries and thousands of years, and I've even been able to trace my genetic lineage to the first man that ever walked the face of the earth. And I'm not kidding. Look up Y DNA Adam. You know, the primordial man, the first human being, Homo sapiens sapien, to walk this earth in Africa, in you know, the East Africa. That's who we all descend from. I was able to trace my lineage back to that person, genetically and historically, almost. So that's very powerful. And for those who don't really believe me about how powerful that knowledge is, like, I should be living proof enough. But I'll just share a story. When I was in Guinea-Bissau, traveling between countries, for those who don't know, traveling between countries in certain parts of Africa is a little bit tough, because you have to get visas and all types of, you know, things can happen where, you know, you're driving on a taxi, or, you know, you might be driving at night, the roads are bad, blah, 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 whatever. Traveling is traveling. So I was traveling in Africa one time in Guinea-Bissau, between the borders. And I was there to know about my people, but I already knew I was Balanta on my father's, you know, through my father's lineage. Abala David. Yeah. So when I was getting through Senegal, going into Guinea-Bissau, I was stopped at the border by, like, the border patrol, right? People. They checked my visa, and something was an issue. I wasn't in the wrong, you know, background, but because the person that was there with me was Balanta, and I was Balanta, and the person that was checking me knew I was Balanta, and I was a Balanta descendant, like, I got treated so well. You know, they let me go, obviously, because, you know, everything was right. But, like, the way they treated me and, like, the conversations I had, like, I was taken care of when I was in Guinea-Bissau. Let me just say that. I was taken care of, because in Africa, you know, because they have a different history when it comes to colonialism, and they didn't really go through a lot of the slavery that we went through, even though they were oppressed by white people. They don't have a lot. Well, they do now, you know what I'm saying? Because obviously the world, you know, is mostly racial now, unfortunately. But for the most part, they don't have as much of a relationship with being black in America, and what that means and how that can be detrimental. In Africa, you look at the next man as a man. You don't look at them as a black man, right? And this is how a lot of our ancestors even looked at each other. When people like to say, oh, Africans sold other Africans, that's not true, because nobody was African back then. You had Mende, you had Temne, you had Belanta, you had Fula, you had Igbo, you had Yoruba, you had Congo, you had Bakango, you had Mbundu. They were people with that distinct, remember what I said in the beginning, they were diverse people. So to mitigate them to just Africans and black people that sold each other is totally disrespectful, and is a very Eurocentric way to look at our history. So if you are black and you believe that Africans sold Africans, or black people sold other black people, then you really need to check how you view your own history, because you're whitewashed. I know my boy Sally said 100. Yeah, 100. You already know. Jamtun, it's nothing but peace, you know, but at the same time, our history is something that we have to be proud of, because of all of the sufferation that we went through, all of the oppression we have overcome up until this point. When I say overcome, I just mean resisted, because we're alive, you know what I'm saying? How to live now is the question, and that's why I'm talking to you, because me personally, I've come to a point now where I don't want to just live as an African American. And that might sound weird. I might sound, you know, backwards, if you will. But me personally, that identity only goes back 400 years. 450 years, I'll say, roughly. And my history, my being is, I'm not going to just limit myself to this span of time in when I could have this. You know what I'm saying? Right? So when I made that decision, I started with knowing who I was in this span of time. Remember, I was telling you at the beginning, learn your history in this land, what your ancestors went through slavery and everything. Solidify that and honor that and never let go of that. Even if I were to repatriate to Africa, move back to Africa right now, I would still be teaching my offspring about their ancestors that were stolen and taken to the Americas and survived that. You know what I'm saying? But me personally, I want to be able to be connected to an ancient lineage. Most African ethnic groups have an oral history, an oral heritage that goes back almost millennia. And I'm not joking, you know, but so I find a lot of Africans in the diaspora, unless your ancestors over here held on to a lot of their ethnic identities, which you have, you know, you have people like the Gullah Geechee in Low Country USA. You have the Maroons of Jamaica, you know, these are descendants of slaves who escaped, Africans who broke free and refused to be slaves and ran up into the hills and lived autonomously as Africans, as they once did in Africa, right? But the large majority of us didn't, you know. Slavery obviously happened. The mental slavery obviously happened too. So the purpose of all of this is to mend that mental slavery that we got put through, that our ancestors got put through, you know, to kind of reverse that effect, you know. So that's what my Sankofa journey was all about.